Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So, this article is saying that the feds have stopped processing migrants at Texas border center after 32 people tested positive for flu. Now, before I start this article, there are photos of the people. You see how they're laying all out in the street. They have them under like a makeshift large tents. They have these people basically they're pretty much at the mercy of whoever is running this whole thing. And it's really sad. You see women, you see men, you see children, and it really looks bad. But the thing is, too, is that they're dumping people off in these cities that are supposed to be sanctuary cities. These people don't have any food, they don't have any place to go. And so I feel personally that homelessness is increasing because of this, and it's a big mess. And I don't know what they're going to do, but it looks like it's only going to get worse. But this article, it's by Anne Flannery. So correct me if I'm wrong on that spelling. But this is the first photo. And so I have to warn you, these photos are very disturbing to see people just kind of, they're children and they're just teens, and there's going to be adults, and you see them, they're in cages, and you see how this looks. It looks terrible. And then you're going to see like families. And these people sometimes they'll say that the places where they're at have made them sick. These people are walking long miles. They're doing who knows what to try to get across the border to seek asylum. Some people, we don't know who all of them are. So I'm not saying that everybody is perfect or everybody is coming for the same reasons or for a good reason in mind. However, there are some people that you don't know if they're coming here to bring whatever, if they had a criminal past and they're going to continue it, and then they're still doing it, and then they're going to bring it back wherever they go. And so it says the U.S. Customs and Border Protection briefly stopped taking in undocumented migrants at the border processing center in McAllen, Texas, after 32 people being held there tested positive for flu. So that's flu. But who knows what else these people may have? And then who knows if they come here, we have an outbreak of the measles. And so the other issue is healthcare. There's children here, and their lives are at stake. There's a lot of risk for sex trafficking and taking advantage of these people and these children. So that has happened as well. So the center is one of the busiest spots along the Mexican border, and a short drive to a border patrol station where a 16-year-old boy died earlier this week. So this is the next photo right here. You see all these families, these people, and you see all what looks like a lot of litter, maybe stuff that they've been eating, and whatever the excrements of like trash is just littered everywhere in these makeshift tents. And these are people. They're at the mercy of whoever else is in running of these centers and these shelters. So an agency official who spoke on condition of anonymity said that the center was expected to reopen soon. So the agency said that medical staff were on hand to treat people where they were ill. So the agency had announced late Tuesday that the Rio Grande Valley sector had temporarily suspended intake operations at the McGowan Center Processing Center. So individuals that were apprehended at RGV sector will be held at other locations until the situation is resolved. The agency has added. So this is a larger picture. So you can see where the bathrooms, it looks like porta potties are there. And this is where they're holding all these people. And so it looks really bad. It's just, I feel like our population of homelessness will increase if these people are just being let off the plane. they can not hold them for too long, and then they're let out in society, and they're let out in basically cities that have already been dealing with homelessness and crime and other issues, social issues, high rents that are rising. There are people who are trying to hang on to their apartment and they're being evicted. So there's a lot of problems that are already happening with people who are supposedly citizens of this country, and now you're bringing in people who have great poverty on top of people who are dealing with poverty. So that doesn't seem fair either. So, an earlier proposal to fly migrants to U.S. border stations in coastal or northern states, including Florida, in a bid to lessen the burden at sites like McAllen, was scrapped last week after the White House intervened and the President Donald Trump declared via Twitter that no more undocumented migrants will be allowed past the southern border. So, the law requires that the border authorities process migrants seeking asylum, and a federal judge has limited detention for children. And so basically, a lot of the problems that they've seen here now, this is disturbing. You'll see mothers and children, and they're on out of these makeshift tents, and then some of them are lying along the road, and they're in these detention centers, and they just got to stay there. And sometimes these kids get separated from their parents. The parents don't know where the kids are, and it takes a long time before they can get their kid back if they ever see their kid again. And so a lot of things can happen to these people because they're at a vulnerable position where they don't have any food, health care, shelter. And so a lot of times what that does is put them in a vulnerable spot where they could be sex trafficked, raped, abused, killed, used for prostitution, and who knows what. So, border officials say that the goal to move people out of its care within 72 hours. So, adults are referred to an immigration and custom, which is ICE enforcement for detention, while minors are sent to the Department of Health and Human Service, which relies on privately run children's shelters. So this is how they get separated. And so some families are able to connect with their kids, others aren't, unfortunately. So families are typically released with a notice to appear at a later date in court. So the latest death of a child in custody was a teen who appears to have been traveling without his parents and had been waiting for a week in CBP custody to get picked up by HHS well past the 72-hour rule. So CBP, Customs Border Patrol, said that he was detained at the U.S. Border Patrol station outside of McAllen, Texas, when he was found unresponsive on Monday. So he was the third migrant minor to have spent time in the U.S. custody in the past month, and the fifth child to die in 6 months. So a lot of these people are coming to them sick because they've been doing a lot of walking to try to get to where they got to go in hopes that they will seek asylum or get to wherever. I've heard stories where they walk long distances or they've had to travel by car, hitchhiking, however, maybe a coyote, which is, I've heard, sometimes can be extremely dangerous. And so there's a lot of different ways that they try to get across the border. And then when they get caught, they end up in places like this, detention centers and whatnot. And so he was the third migrant minor to have spent time in U.S. custody in the past month and the fifth child to die in 6 months. So here's the next picture. And this is a detention center. So Democrats have identified the team as Carlos Gregorio Hernandez Vasquez has already called for an investigation. So these are the kids that are held in detention centers. It's a children's basically it's a children's shelter, but it's detention, like detention center for the kids to stay there until they figure out what to do with the parents and then the children as well. So CBP says that its average is 69 trips to the hospital a day since mid-December, with more than 14,000 people taken in the hospital this year. So these people are very, very sick. Then when they get there, they're even more sick because they don't have a quick response or they don't know who's sick with what. So they just basically they spend a lot of time taking people to hospitals and stuff to see what's wrong with them. So lately it's been the flu, but who knows what else is going to happen. Let's just hope it isn't like measles, because when that happens, if they don't have the proper health care, then there's going to be a lot of more deaths, because we have an outbreak of that in the California region. So CBP says it averages what it said 69 trips to the hospital a day since mid December, for more than 14,000 people taken to the hospital this year. So that's basically the whole article. You see the pictures of how the crowd has swollen of people who are migrants that are seeking asylum. And so this has been an ongoing battle, a problem that they've been yet discussing. And they have been, doing a lot of talks on what to do with this issue. So what do you think about this? It just doesn't look like it's getting any better. And to have people that are coming with poverty on top of people who are dealing with poverty, it doesn't seem like it's going to work out either. So, what are your thoughts and feedback on this? It's really sad because it just seems like it just does not get any better to add more poverty on top of poverty that we're dealing with. People have already talked about how it's so expensive to live in California or everywhere. It's like starting to get expensive because there's elites, there are people that have like money, or they live upper class, or they live wealthy, and it just seems like it doesn't let up on the people who could at least try to afford something. There have been some people have talked about owning things, but sometimes that doesn't come easy for everyone, especially when they're in circumstances such as these. So, what are your thoughts and feedback on this? It's really sad. It doesn't look like it's getting any better. Hopefully, there'll be a solution to this problem. But as I see it right now, it doesn't look like anything's getting any better. And this picture is really appalling because this is happening right here in America. These people are like pretty much suffering along with people who are right now here in America, and they thought they had that dream of trying to succeed and trying to be on straight and narrow, work hard, and then you achieve much, but it seems like it's not turning out or panning out that way for many people. They make the money, they're working, but it's not enough money to pay the bills and the rent both, so they end up having to seek a smaller place or either find a relative to stay with for the time being until they're able to deal with their situation. So with that being said, I'm gonna let this video go. Like, comment, subscribe, pay for it. Thank you for listening.